Hi guys, it's Dr. Kristina here, and I'm here with Elissa Arnheim. And today we're going to be talking about all things gut because it is one of my favorite topics. It's definitely one of Elissa's favorite topics. Elissa is also a mom. And Elissa, maybe just tell us a little bit about how you got into this kind of world, this gut world.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for having me. It's always so much fun to talk with you, Christina, especially about things we totally are obsessed with, like gut and kids and food. So I run Healthy Gut, Happy Child and a program called Feeding Kids Today. I do coaching. And what I'm doing in the world is I'm helping moms to reverse their kids' anxiety, their behavior and learning issues, their picky eating, all these things that our kids have going on now that are not so cool, that are really about like what's going on inside their bodies and, what they're eating, what their gut health is like, and, it's all reversible. So the reason I got into this, I originally started my business thinking that like my email address, Elissa at Baby Eats Vegetables, is where I started. I thought, oh, if more kids just ate vegetables, fell in love with eating vegetables, then they'd be healthier, right? But honestly, there's a lot more to it than just eating the vegetables. Many people say it's not what you eat, but what your body does with what you eat, or what you ate, and there's all this other stuff. And we really found out about that because, we have this beautiful little boy. I love my little boy so much. And he was 2.5 years old. He'd been eating, tons of vegetables. He didn't eat sugar. And we found out he had cancer. And it was like, what? Like, it was terrifying. And he's great. He's doing really well. But when we found out he was sick, I was like, how is this possible? Because like we're feeding him all the right things. And I had just started learning about our gut, about probiotic vegetables, and about probiotic bacteria, and so we were starting to incorporate some of that, but then I got completely immersed in it. That was where I really focused my energy as far as how I could help my little boy through the process of getting through 10 months of this intense chemo and heal after that, because 10 months of super toxic chemicals going through your body leaves your interior kind of barren in a way and not really functional in a lot of ways. And so we got to rebuild that and just went through layer after layer after layer. And there are even still a few aspects that we're working through now. But it was so empowering for us as a family to be able to support his health from the inside. And we could see it. I mean, he just, like, every new aspect of gut health and food we added in, it just like lifted him higher and higher. And so now I get to share that with my clients and with everyone in my email list. Like, I write about this stuff all the time, just give it out. So.
Yeah, and I have to say, I also, having 3 kids, I've always been driven by trying to increase their body's own natural healing capacity. People always say to me, well, how did you get your kids to eat this? And I'm like, first of all, yes, babies have to eat vegetables. In my practice, there's so many new moms. So it's like my mission to tell them, like, hey, every bit of information, every bit of food you put in your baby's body is like information for that body to have good information or bad information. And I think I heard Mark Hyman say that once. He was saying, do you want to give yourself good information or bad information? Like, these are the choices, and what are the choices we want to give our kids? And I think that what struck me so much as my kids were little and starting to get older is that it was a surprise to people that my kids would, like yours did just before we got on live, say, hey, Mom, I want a carrot and some cucumbers. That wasn't me having to force them, because they had grown up with nutrient-dense food.
Yeah.
That being said, when I started doing functional medicine, I realized that even if you're eating really well, and actually I see that even with my adult patients, it's not the only thing. It's a good base. We have to start there. But some of the things you've been talking about recently on your email list and on your Facebook posts, are so compelling and so great to share with the community. One of the things that really struck me, and I thought it was such a great comment, was like, how do we have calm so that our guts work well? And I know that's like something you're passionate about. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about like what that means, calm and gut, and how those two are related? Like what difference does it make on your gut if you're calm? Because I don't think people really get that. And we are right now in a state where most of us live in a really non-calm state, which we also do to our children, mine too. Like they go to school, they have after school programs. There's not a lot of time for calm. They get 20 minutes for lunch and they'd like to socialize for lunch too. So, what is that connection, and how can you you have such a great way of talking about it. And I bet, just really clarify that for people.
Thank you, Kristina. That's really sweet to hear. And I just have to like go back to what you said about your like being kind of surprised when you found out other people were like, what, your kids eat vegetables? I had that same experience, and kudos to you for just like starting out with the vegetables. And you're right. Like we teach our kids their taste. We teach our kids how it feels to eat nutrient-dense food, and then they want to eat it because they love feeling strong, and they love feeling awake, and they love feeling good and not inflamed and allergic and all that stuff. So that's a whole other conversation. I love it. But the calm part. So the calm part was actually a huge step in my healing journey with my son, because, he was the one that was sick, and, we went along with him in many ways. And I was so wound up, it was, like 6 or 8 months after he was done with chemo. And, we had gone through, we had figured out he had all these food sensitivities, and then we found out he had SIBO and small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, according to the testing that we had done at the time years ago. And so we were following the directions and doing the low FODMAP diet and the no FODMAP foods. And the preschool had like volunteered when they saw him bringing in different snacks. They were like, oh, well, we'll just make the whole school, do this. And I was obsessing about sticking with everything on this list. And, but, also like maintaining that, like, yay, this is fun. We love these foods, but just kind of like, it was a surface. It was like a front, because I was freaked out. I was overwhelmed. I was crazy with stress. And he came up to the cutting board one day and he was like, Mommy, is it safe for me to eat? I was like cutting up this beautiful red pepper, beautiful, juicy, low FODMAP. I was like, yeah, totally safe for you to eat. And then I pulled out something else, and he was like, how about that? Are you sure that's safe for me to eat? And that was like everything I made for dinner. He was questioning me, and I realized that he was as wound up as I was. And he had gotten to a place where he didn't even trust me. Like he didn't trust food. And that's not okay. That's not okay for a kid to be scared of food. And I realized that he was so stressed. I was stressed. And I just pulled the plug on the whole thing. We kept gluten and dairy out, just didn't talk about it, but just avoided it, because we had found out in the months before we found out he had cancer, we had finally gotten gluten out and a whole bunch of digestive issues resolved. And before that, we had taken out the dairy, and his rash went away. So in any case, I called this GI doctor, who is so amazing, a special naturopath that we traveled hours to see. And I was like, hey, we need to take a break from all of this and just do calming down. And I have, these different ideas. And she was like, great idea. Sure, I'm on board. Here are a few more things to do. And so that's all we focused on. And a few weeks later, he actually like hollered to me from the bathroom about his poop, because we have a little Bristol stool chart for kids up in the bathroom.
So for those of you who don't know what a Bristol stool chart is, it shows the different kinds of stool, hard little pellets, nice soft little snakes, which is my favorite, poop snakes.
Oh, yeah.
And then broken tea bags. So they're like the end of the spectrum. Just in case of those of you that don't know what a Bristol stool chart is. Now you're going to go Google it.
Yes, pictures of poop. They're rated, ranked pictures of poop, and the middle is number 4. That's that nice soft S. And anyway, he hollowed out, "Hey, mommy! I just had a cool dude number 4." And we were all like, "Yeah!" Because one of the signs of his issues was like, horrible, pasty, stinky poops that like you had to wipe 18 million times. And so we're getting really graphic here, but this is real. This is digestion. We've got to be using our senses and like paying attention to like what we see on our plates, what we see coming out of our bodies, what it smells like. All of these things are clues that things are good, or that like something's off balance. And then we get to do something and it comes back into balance, because our bodies, all they want to do is be healthy and imbalanced and resilient. And if we give them just like a little space, just a little help, then, or even just a little break from something that's not good for them, then they're going to just take over and heal. And so that's what
That
was
sun is
happening.
right in your eyes,
Oh
Elissa.
yeah, I'll move over
There
here.
you go. Awesome. I mean, it's lovely. It's a beautiful view. For those of us up in Toronto where it's not so warm, it looks lovely.
Thank you. Yeah. So really just what we did was we took a break from being stressed, and his body and my body were both able to do their job. And the reason is that when we're stressed, our blood flow actually is cut off from so many of our organ systems, because our body is like preparing to like run away from whatever is dangerous, or like run and scoop up the babies and get them to higher ground when the river is flooding or whatever it might be. And where we can't digest our food, our blood flow to our gut gets cut by almost half, and so we're not digesting, we're not absorbing nutrients, and and we're certainly not healing inflammation if we're busy being stressed out.
Yeah.
So once we can calm down, even for a few minutes, then we get the benefit of a normally working body that is always cleaning up and supporting and absorbing nutrients. And it's super easy to get back in our calm mode, and it can become really habitual to do these teeny little things like breathing a few times, a few deep breaths, or like getting outside. Like I don't know, what is your routine like right now? We're going outside first thing in the morning just to kind of like connect with the light, support our circadian rhythm and sleep, kind of like calm our brains down, use some energy, and then we start in on the schoolwork.
It depends on the morning. I have to say, I have one child that pretty much wants to do what is up for anything. So in the morning, she's been saying to me, "Mommy, let's go for a sneaky walk. I want to go for a sneaky walk." So
without anybody else.
Yeah, so we get our pajamas on, yeah, and we put our jackets on and we go for a walk, and we actually like listen to the birds. And there's a lot of birds out in the morning in Toronto. No one would know it because no one's listening, but it does set the tone for the day. But I want to go back to something you were saying about digestion, because we do a lot of talk in our communities and with our patients about digestion, and we'll have people who are like, "I'm eating really well. I'm eating all organic. I'm eating all the right diet for me. We've tested it out. I know these are the foods I should be eating, but I'm still kind of bloated." And to your point, if we are reading stressful emails, ruminating over something that's upsetting when we're at work, eating at our desk, our body thinks it's running from a dangerous stranger, thinks it's running from a tiger or a lion. So we won't digest the stuff. You're right. The blood doesn't go to the stomach. The sympathetic nervous system, that part of our nervous system that's for running away, and which is really good and helpful when we need it.
Yeah.
And because we're always living there all the time, this is why we see not just a generation of adults that have IBS and irritable bowel, but we have this generation of kids who, it's not just they're feeling their parents' stress, it's in the world, right? So you're right, getting out in nature, first thing. I often will say to my kids, we'll sit at the table, because they get hungry. I mean, they eat a lot, but they get hungry. And so they just want to wolf their food down. I just say to them, let's just take a breath or two. And that's hard for me because I like to move. I'm a busy person. But I have found that when we all do that, there's less stinky farts.
Oh,
Because we're chewing our food and our body is enjoying. And I think this is the interesting piece that we've lost as modern families. Mm-hmm. We've lost the ability to sit around the table and be like, hey, how was your day? Oh, the food looks great. Let's pick, like, it's like we make the plates, we put them on the table, and the kids come eat, and then they leave. I don't know if any one of you have that happen, but for sure that happens in my house sometimes. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. I want to talk. I want to sit down.
Talking with each other. This is like, we're a community. We want to find out how you are. It's funny. We just lately, I've been really cracking down on the talking with food in our mouths. It drives me bananas, and I've been doing it because there's been this like invisible like thing that like you have to answer everyone right now. If they ask you a question, like you got to answer it. Or like it'll be too late or something, but like finish chewing your food, like answer it when you're done. You're sitting here to chat. I want to hear your answer and I'm willing to wait. And just that reinforces that things are safe. We're not in a rush. We don't need to flee. And like you said, there are so many signals all through our lives, like built into our lifestyle and culture at this point, that all tell our body it's an emergency. So it's our fight or flight is being turned on all day long, over and over and over again. So it's really important to actively choose to turn on our parasympathetic, our rest and digest, all day long, because our bodies were built to be in rest and digest all the time and just have like once in a while freak out mode. So so those habits, just like, you wake up and you brush your teeth and you do something to calm your nervous system down. And then, you have breakfast and you take a minute to smell your food before you eat. And it's like, it becomes automatic to like, bring it down. I have people, my clients and anyone that will listen, I'll tell them, put a little pleasant sounding chime in your phone 4 times a day. And when it goes off, whatever you're doing, take 3 deep breaths, big belly breaths. Okay, just make it automatic.
Well, and
you need it.
Right? I mean, for example, I am a mom of 3 who my husband's out of town during the week. So it's just me and the kids, and I run a busy practice. And I definitely can go a day like that. And I have actually, and I'm not great at like the meditation on a daily basis piece. I like to walk around with my bare feet in the ground in the morning. That is my meditation. But that is one of the tools that I tell people to actually tell their kids, and actually just start practicing it yourself, like at breakfast, especially those busy mornings. They're a little less busy now, but they do become busy. Getting up a little earlier, I kind of make sure all their breakfast is done. So they're getting a really good nutrient dense kind of breakfast that'll last them through the morning. But I make sure I'm up earlier so I can sit with them and I drink my coffee and I even talk in this calm voice, even if my brain is going really fast, because I know that it's the best way for them to turn their brains on for the rest of the day. I read this research a couple months ago, and I forget the woman's name who did the research. And she said, and the research showed that when you start your day with I got a million things to do, I got to get this done, we got to get this done, we got to get this done, that actually lights up part of your brains that make it much more difficult for you to logically think for the rest of the day. And I thought that was fascinating. And I think, are we doing that to our children? Not on purpose, obviously. I mean, we're all trying our very best. And, like I always say, relentless self-forgiveness. A patient of mine years ago was a principal of like a first grade school. I'll never forget her. And she said that's what she teaches all her new teachers. And I will try and teach that to all my parents, like relentless self-forgiveness. We are learning every day. And there's so much information, like you were saying, you were doing all the right things with your son. You were doing this and doing this. And it became like such a fixated thing on the food or on the sleep. And my comment always to people is, I have a lot of parents who come in, they're like, well, we thought eating this way was healthy, but now we figured out that it's not healthy for him, and gluten-free snacks are actually full of sugar. And I say to them, we just can do better every day. And every time you watch a podcast or you hear someone speak, or you go to a professional, or you chat with your friends, or you read something, being able to just take one little nugget and say, oh, I'm going to introduce that into my family. The breathing before you eat. I mean, I don't practice any kind of religion at this moment, but the whole giving thanks for the people who made the food.
Yeah.
We grow our own garden. It's not a long growing season in Toronto, but we grow it. So I always, when we have our food, I said, hey, who picked this food? I'm so grateful for you. Who watered this food? Because it gives you that opportunity to get into that digesting mode, and that all of your enzymes start to be released, and your salivary glands start working. So what are some of the tips you give people, like, your clients, or just like you said, anyone who wants to hear about better gut health and calm, what are some of your like top tips that you might give someone? There's a lot of us, looking for information on how to better get our kids healthier and ourselves healthier. What are some of the simple tips that you love to talk about?
Yeah, well, we've talked about a couple of them, the breathing and breathing 3 big breaths multiple times a day. And I love that breathing before meals, smelling your food. Just like you said, it actually turns on our digestion. That actually really helps with our appetite as well, with kids, that maybe don't want to eat. Other things that are important are, I'm a fermentationist. I'm a certified fermentationist. I love telling people about that. I love to ferment. Actually, I have you can probably see over my shoulder, a couple jars of sauerkraut fermenting. It's second day for that. It's really important to get these probiotic vegetables, these raw fermented organic vegetables, into our kids' systems, in our own systems, because they're full of the bacteria that help us digest our food, that help release nutrients. They help heal the gut lining to mitigate some of that leaky gut that, we all have at different times. They're also really great at reducing disease in general, helping to get rid of the pathogenic bacteria that might make us sick. They're acidic. And so a lot of people think their kids will never eat fermented vegetables or sauerkraut. And, usually the parents are saying that and they're thinking, I don't want to eat that either. It's gross. Yeah. But the thing is, our bodies want to eat the things that help us feel healthy. When our gut's doing well, our brain is doing well. And so with this great connection, when a kid tastes that super sour flavor of sauerkraut or raw fermented dill pickle, even though they might spit it out at first, there's something in their brain that is recognizing, oh, this is really good. We need this. And so inexplicably, well, we can't explain it, but it seems so shocking when a kid will spit it out and then be like, can I have some tomorrow? Or so one of the things that I love to do is and there's a free download on my website, healthyguthappychild.com, free for anybody. There are different ways that you can get your kid to fall in love with eating sauerkraut, even without them knowing. You can put the brine and the ketchup and the mayonnaise, or you can just have a thing at your house where for 2 weeks, every night, everyone puts the sauerkraut in their mouth. They don't have to keep it in there. They can spit it out if they want. But by the end of 2 weeks, usually the kids are just eating it because they want it. And then they have more of those great bacteria that are crowding out the pathogenic stuff that makes us sick. It's also, these bacteria, they love eating vegetables. So kids are going to get more signals from their gut up to their brain, oh, choose the vegetables, instead of, oh, get the candy, get the cakes, because those are the pathogenic bacteria that love eating cakes and candy and sugar and processed stuff. And so we get to shift this whole balance, and you see it coming out in your kids. You see it in their preferences and what they want to eat, in their calm, in their appetite, in their focus, all these different things. So super, super fun.
It's funny. My background is European. So sauerkraut, I grew up eating. Dill pickles a little bit, but sauerkraut. And I remember introducing my children to sauerkraut really early. And I just put it on the table. My third child ate like a cupful. And then, of course, when you eat that much fermented food when you're 2, it adds a lot of bacteria into your gut. So she went to the bathroom a little more that day, but I got to tell you, to this day, one of their favorite breakfasts is I make these like little turkey patties for breakfast with avocado and sauerkraut. And that's like their breakfast. I'm like, oh, they got a vegetable in. And they actually they fight over it. And I know that sounds so crazy to people, but kids know what feels good. And like you said, those bacteria help make our brain chemicals, our neurotransmitters. And that's what our kids, this generation, like there is so much brain inflammation this generation. There's so many behavioral issues. We've talked about this. And I really, when I see it in my practice, I find 80% of the kids, when we shift over their palate, and sometimes it's a long time, right? Like you said, 2 weeks, just not even restricting, just nourishing and being like, we cut up some daikon radish the other day. It's beautiful. It's purple on the outside, then it looks like white and purple, like a star almost. And it's quite tasty. And people will send their kids to our house and we pull these things out and they're like, what is this? Do you have any crackers? I'm like, no, I'm sorry. We don't eat gluten. You know, one of the kids, it bothers them, but they do taste it and eat it. And it is one of the best strategies and the simplest strategy if you want your child to thrive. It is like such a simple, everyone says like, oh, it's so hard. And I'm like, just do it.
Just do it. They want it. They want it. They feel so good.
And for us moms, we need to do it for our brains.
Oh, totally. I need it. I definitely, when I start eating junk, or like a couple of weeks ago, we got these new organic chocolate bars and they're sweetened with coconut sugar, and it was all great for a while, but then I was eating too much of it. And I started to notice like I wasn't feeling good. I wasn't waking up awake. And I was like, oh, there it is. It's that I've been eating more sugar and I've just been feeding different microbes, and it's totally showing up in my whole day and how I feel and how my brain works. And, you know, I switched that up and went back to the chocolate that didn't have the sugar in it. And I still have a chocolate problem, but it's not affecting the rest of my body in the same
need some more magnesium. Again, I think so many healthy choices out there, but I think the one thing that maybe people can really take from this conversation is that when you are calm, you digest better. And no matter how you're eating, really healthy, really clean, making right choices, if you're eating in a stressed out way, or you're stressed out and your child is eating in a stressed out way because they're afraid of food, or whatever the case may be.
Picking up our energy. If we're stressed, then they're getting this unconscious signal, oh, there's something to worry about, especially if we're stressed about their health. And that's my clients are scared to death that their kids are not going to get better. And so when we start, the first thing that we do intensively actually is helping mom reset her nervous system and get a little of that confidence back and start to do little things and start to see these positive changes in our kid that she has done so that she can relax. And then she's got this attitude, oh, my kid can heal. Oh, I know what to do. And so many of her kids' issues just resolve spontaneously because they're not worried about themselves anymore. You know, they've been like, oh, my mom thinks I'm going to die. Like, and I'm saying this, you know, I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of not joking. Like, that's our deepest fear. And our kids understand what we're afraid of, even when we're trying to cover it up. So that what you're talking about, the stress piece, is so important.
Yeah. So you run this great summit every year that I'd love you to share with me. That's actually, I don't think you know this, but years and years ago, it must have been your first summit I watched. And we actually met, I think, the next year or the year after at Mindshare together, which was great. And I was like, oh, I got to meet Elissa and become friendly, which is amazing. But I really, it was such simple information for moms, very digestible. And we're all looking for more information so we can make better choices. So tell me a little bit about your summit, which is coming up soon. And I'm really excited to see it because we got a lot of time now to, you know, get ourselves.
Well, this is funny. I planned this before we had all of this extra time. And so I actually designed it so it would be way easier and more compact so people could actually see the whole thing. And I actually have 5 panel discussions with 3 experts plus me each. And we're talking about how we feed our kids at home. So the event is called Feeding Kids Today. And it's all about what we do so that our kids have these eating habits the foods they eat, the way we eat, like taking a breath before our meal, so that they're super resilient. And I have to say, what's been fascinating in these conversations, which have been occurring, about over the past month and a half, so as this pandemic has been unfolding, and what I kept hearing was their kids were saying things like, why is everybody so worried? Like what's the big deal? We eat our food, we eat healthy food, we do healthy things, and what's the big deal? And so it just was this overwhelming sense of confidence from the children, confidence in their own immune systems, and confidence in the parents. Like they felt really safe knowing their kids are resilient. And it's been super fun, and we give a lot of details about exactly what foods and different kind of challenging situations, and it's been super fun. Thanks for asking about it.
Oh yeah, I mean, for those of you who are interested, I'll include a link down below. I'll get it from you because, like I said, it was the first place I actually saw you, and I found it to be such, again, those strategies that we can use to just increase our body's natural healing ability and give our kids the tools that they'll have control over their health. They're not complex strategies. They are simple little tools that we just have to slowly add in. And like you said, make them a habit. And when that's their habit, that's what they go to. If their habit is grabbing something on the go, running to school, being stressed out because they slept in, because they're too tired to get up, that habit starts to create that chronic disease that maybe takes 10 or 15 years to show itself. And so these are such great basics. And my community loves to digest this information. So I love that you're doing it within the next month, which is really exciting. So yeah. I'll make sure I include those details. Perfect. And any last parting words for everyone? I'm so pleased that we had a chance to sit down. I feel like I'm hiding in my basement in a room. It's our wine cellar room, and I'm it's nice and quiet, and I'm I feel like we're having a little fireside chat, at least on my end. On your end, I feel like you're in summer.
We're kind of in summer. People are kind of coming in and out of the house. There's a lot of crazy bike moves going on outside that I'm trying not to have a heart attack over. I can see them out the window. And but yes, I'm so grateful we got to have this conversation. I love every time we get to talk, and this has been super fun. And if you want to find Feeding Kids Today, you can find more information about it soon, not up yet, but at healthyGutHappyChild.com. And it starts on May 5th, and I can't wait.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was such a great pleasure to see you. And I'm going to stop recording now, and hope you guys all had a lot of information, and I look forward to chatting with you next time.
Sounds good. Thanks for all the good things you're doing in the world, Kristina. These moms need you.
Oh, it's really, it's not just my mission. It's so my pleasure. I hope if I can, I always say, I hope if I can inspire one child to feel like they have control over their health, that they want to take that control. We just have to give it to them. And I think parents just are unable or unwilling or don't understand how impactful that can be for our young generation. They take the challenge and they're like, oh, I know this doesn't make me feel, I'm not going to eat that better than anyone else, because they know how they're feeling. So they're so much more intuitive. So that is my goal. I know your goal is similar, and I'm so excited to just share this with the community.
Awesome.
Wonderful rest of your day. Bye.